Sometimes you just gotta let it roll.
Sometimes.
You just gotta raw dog the podcast and hope that you don't end up with a bad situation on the other side.
That's the motto. That's Fleeting
Hmm.
Thoughts motto number one. You
Sometimes
got
you
to
just
raw
gotta raw
dog the
dog it.
pod. You got to raw dog the podcast.
Yeah.
Dang friggin' friggin' do it. Dang you know what I'm talking
Off
about.
to a good start.
Trying to figure out what a good voice to start it out at. Yes, that's probably a good one.
That's a good. That is good.
Yeah,
Oh, I
there.
don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it trumped me. Whatever you did knocked whatever I was doing out. You fucking highlight my or what? Not highlight. Um, what is it? Where they do the sweeping on the ice and you try to hit the ball out of the thing. It's kind of like that sandball disc ball, sandball.
It's nothing. I got
Curling,
nothing.
curling,
Oh,
curling,
I
curling.
just carried you right out of there.
Like I had my puck in the middle there, and I
Mm-hmm.
was doing my thing, and then you were
And
like,
then you came along and you were like, "Yeah, we're gonna play this game now."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. Yeah, that's what we
Welcome.
do.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. You're not getting anything out of this either. Don't worry about it.
I hope you're not here for educational purposes.
We are not fucking we're not we don't have the what is it called?
The wherewithal, the
Yeah,
knowledge.
we don't have any of it. We don't have any credentials. We
No,
have we have
I'm a
no
doctor of life.
yeah,
I
a
have a
doctor of
PhD
life.
in a PhD in living my life. Life the
I'm
board
a
game.
I
That's what I
have a
have a
I have a
PhD.
doctorate in life, but I'm not that good at it.
No, there's plenty of doctors, who have doctorates that aren't very good at their job. So
What's why
not
is
really anybody, not any different
what
than anyone else.
why can you be a doctor but not like why is there a medical doctor and a regular doctor? Answer me that,
I
Batman.
don't know. I got
Riddle me
nothing,
this. Did
man.
you see the commercial for the new Batman with
Oh yeah,
Pattinson, I think?
Robert Pattinson.
Robert
Yeah.
Rob P. Little
Mm-hmm.
Robbie P.
Oh,
P.
Rob P.
Little Robbie P. Peterson. He
Mm-hmm.
looks like a really young Batman, but he doesn't look terrible as Batman. He's got a,
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be interesting. It looks like it's gonna be a more, I think a darker take on the character than.
darker than the Dark Knight. Like,
Yeah, I don't. I mean, obviously
that's
that's
pretty
that's kind
dark.
of his MO, but it looks like it's kind of more like grounded, kind of like the Nolan movies, where instead of
It's just like that. Yeah, it looks like that.
like it's not going to be super cartoony or
No, it
like
looks
like
dark as
like the
shit.
Riddler just looks like a psycho,
Mhm,
with his like
mhm.
weird ski mask with the goggles or whatever the fuck he's wearing, and
There were
um,
like a million things going on in that trailer. It was just a
mhm.
million different like cuts and gets more intense as you go, and then the whole city's blowing up. It reminded me very much of the Nolan movies.
Yeah,
I don't know how many more Batman stories I need of
it's
people
interesting that
being
like with
serious. Why are
Batman,
you serious? I'm
they
serious.
can't they can't like find somebody to really commit to Batman and just be Batman for a while. It's like they sign somebody up to do it, and then they, like I guess at least Nolan got to finish his trilogy, but you think for such a popular character that like you would get, look at Robert Downey Jr. How many fucking movies was he Iron Man
Yeah,
in?
they just have
Or
bad planning or something. They do the same
yeah,
thing with Spider-Man. Just every 3 movies, new Spider-Man, new Spider-Man, new
yeah,
Spider-Man.
instead of just finding a way to continue on with the same person and like make it work. But
It's
it's
weird.
just because like even Ben
So
Affleck, he only did
weird. Two
what, like two
Batmans?
movies. He did
The
Justice League and
Justice?
then Batman vs Superman. That was kind of it. And he was in
Ugh,
like one
he
of the
was the
Suicide
worst.
Squad for a little bit. But
He was not a good Batman.
oh, you didn't think so? I liked him as Batman.
I
He
didn't
had an
like him, but I
he
don't
had like
like
an
Ben
interesting
Affleck.
kind of old, grizzled, grumpy Batman.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Um,
I don't like Ben Affleck. I can't see him and go, I don't know. I don't like his face.
yeah,
That's about
hey,
it.
that's fine. You know what?
Sorry.
Sometimes you see a face and you just like fuck that guy. Like,
It's like Nicolas Cage. Like I I can tolerate him a lot of the time, but for the
Mhm.
most part, like his fucking face is annoying. It's just Nicolas Cage. It's not some. It's not an act. It's not a character.
Yeah,
It's
he's not
just
really
fucking
performing
Nicolas
anymore.
Cage.
He's just being himself.
Yeah, and it's just I've seen his face too much, and I just don't think he's. I mean, especially Ben Affleck. Like he's boring. He's such a boring face.
That's how, I mean, that becomes my problem with a lot of actors that, when they get really famous and then they're in all these different films or TV shows, like eventually you stop seeing them as like a character. You just see them as, oh, look, it's Ben Affleck. Like you don't even know what his character's name is. You're just like, oh, Ben Affleck in that show.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
like
You
call
don't.
him by his name. He's not like
Mhm.
really performing at a level that makes you not believe that it's just Ben Affleck
Yeah,
on the screen.
you don't like get immersed in the character like
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio or something.
Hmm. But even like Leonardo DiCaprio, he's like really popular and famous, but he's not like in movies all the time. It seems like he has a movie come out and then it's like maybe 2 or 3 years later, he's got another movie that comes out.
Yeah.
It's like some of these people, though, it's like they're really popular. So it's just like they're in like 2 or 3 movies a year. And you're like, Jesus, I get it. There's no other actors in Hollywood right now. It's just you.
Yeah, some of them probably just are like, I'm willing to do whatever. I'll do whatever
Like
movies.
Chris Pratt, he's like one of the newer, like more popular actors. And I just don't really care for him that much. Like he's like the same person and everything.
Oh, see,
Guardians of the
Patty.
Galaxy made him like really popular, and then so he's got that going, and then he's doing all the new Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic World movies, I guess. Then
Boring.
he's like going to be like the voice of Mario and like some animated Mario Brothers movie. It's just like he's
Boring.
just everywhere, and I'm like, I don't feel any excitement when you're casting something, but
Nope, doesn't do it for me
sure,
anymore.
there's millions out there who are just thrilled when they see that his name show up on something. So
Who is an actor that you do get it up for?
that I do get it up for. I really enjoy Christian Bale actually quite a bit.
Yeah, of course. He's
Um,
great.
he's
What was
one of
the
those
last
people that
thing?
what
What?
he just
What?
does like a lot. I mean, because he again he doesn't have like a ton of movies come out, but he's like pretty interesting with like some of the movies he chooses to be in. Like I mean, he could easily just keep doing big blockbuster movies like Batman. He could have just found the next big blockbuster thing and went with it, but. He does have like a lot of smaller scale, like more interesting or artistic things too.
What was the last thing he was in that you saw?
I'm trying to think. I like
Um,
Hostels comes to mind, but I know he's done movies since then. But that was like the last movie that I saw him in, where that movie was like really powerful to me, and I really
oh
enjoyed it.
yeah, Hostile.
Yeah,
The
I think that came out in
Hostiles.
like 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. It's been a few years, but that movie was really good.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of movies in production. He was in that Ford versus Ferrari movie. I didn't
Yeah, I
see
never
that.
watched. I didn't watch that because I wasn't interested in the subject matter.
Um,
I don't care about car stuff that much, so I
he
didn't
was in
watch
the
that.
Big Short. That was really good. He was really good in that.
Hmm. But see, he's one of those actors that like he actually acts, like he kind of embodies his character. Like in The Big Short, what he does in that movie is very different than what he does in, Hostels or Batman. It's like Hostels was interesting because the beginning of that movie, he's like a racist, fucking just worn out general. He just fucking hates
Mhm.
all of the native tribes because he's been fighting them and they've killed his friends and vice versa. And there's a lot of interesting character development in that movie
Yeah, he's
where they
great in
start
it.
off not liking each other at all. I mean, it's not that unique. There's plenty of stories where like it's sort of like adversaries that learn to get along throughout the trials and tribulations of the story. But um, like Hostels, I just remember watching that and I was in the beginning, I was like, guy, he's like, I kind of don't like him as a character. Like he's just a fucking asshole. And then obviously, things change over time. Oh, did you ever watch him in Vice where he played Dick Cheney? Dude, he's like
No,
unrecognizable in that
no.
movie. He does such a great job.
I saw a picture of him and I did not recognize him in it. But it was him. Yeah, as Dick Cheney. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
think Vice that where he played Dick Cheney, that was the last movie that
Yeah.
came out that he was in that I saw. And that was 2018. And then he did Hostels in 2017.
Oh wow.
Big Short was 2015. So yeah, he hasn't really had anything come out in the last couple of years. But like you said, he's got a bunch of stuff coming up. So maybe he took a little break for a bit. And I'm sure COVID fucked everything up for a lot of people. It delayed a lot of film production schedules.
Productions. Productions.
I'm trying to think of other,
Other hot actors.
well, just, I don't know. actors that I guess I don't really care so much about like the actors, the actresses when they're in something. I don't and like I don't think I've ever really seen like a cast from like, oh my God, I gotta watch that because this person's in it. It's
Hmm.
more like, oh, like that story looks interesting. And these actors that are in it are like they all do a solid job in other things I've watched. So it should be pretty good, hopefully. I'm more fascinated by the screenwriters, like the screenplay writers and the directors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite director?
Oh shit. I don't know if I
Late
really
of
have
late.
of late. Probably Mike Flanagan. He's been doing because I'm a big fan of horror, and he's been doing it like wonderful. He recently just had I think I recommended it, but Black Mass on Netflix came out this year.
Black
He directed
Mass.
that. He directed the House on Haunted Hill for Netflix as well. He's directed like a lot of Stephen King adaptations. He did Gerald's Game and Doctor Sleep.
Doctor Sleep. That's his
So
least scary fucking superhero ever.
what Doctor Sleep?
Just Mr. Melatonin. Ah, makes you drowsy. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah, I don't have I don't know what Mr. Doctor Sleep is.
Oh, it's a sequel to The Shining that
Ooh.
follows Dan Torrance when he's older, like in his 40s. Stephen King, I think it came out in 2013, the book did. And then they turned it into a movie last year or the year before. Can't remember. Time sort of just slips by anymore.
All willy-nilly. You saw Antlers, I noticed.
Yeah, which is gonna be my recommendation this week. That movie was fucking
Nice.
cool. It was, yeah.
What is it about? I don't know. Is it a horror scary movie?
Yeah, it's a horror movie. It's like it's essentially about generational trauma and then
What does that mean?
but it's about like abuse suffered through families.
Gross.
Like the both main characters have suffered like some sort of familial abuse in their upbringing.
Hmm.
Like the one of the main characters is a little boy whose dad is basically a meth addict. And it actually takes place in Oregon, like on the Oregon, it looks like kind of on the Oregon coast with some
Uh-oh.
of the cinematography, but it takes place in a small town in Oregon where it's like kind of a dead town where like the industry has died in it. And so the people who are left there don't really have much means to get by. So there's like a pretty rampant meth problem in the town, which paints a fairly accurate picture of some areas of Oregon. So not
Does
our
he
best
grow
foot forward.
does he grow antlers and then protect himself with the antlers from the abuse?
No.
Oh.
Like the movie starts, so his dad is has like a meth lab set up in this old abandoned mine. And so the movie starts with his dad, like they're basically cleaning up shop and about to move on because this other company's bought the mine. And so they're looking at like reopening it. And so it opens with him and one of his meth cooking buddies trying to clean up their stuff. And they get like attacked by some unseen creature in the beginning of the film. And then later in the film, the one of the main characters is a young boy who's his son, has him and his little brother who was also there at the mine that day. They're like locked up in the attic basically, and he like keeps finding like carcasses, like roadkill and stuff that he's like throwing in there to feed them. And then you find out that they're sick with something. And so basically every night he just like deadbolts this attic. He has like all these extra deadbolts that were installed. Like his dad actually tried to separate himself from the boys because he could recognize that he was getting sick and he didn't want to get them sick. So he like separated himself from them. And then the youngest brother still ended up getting sick. So he's dealing with all that. And then, so he's like his dad was already a piece of shit who was a drug addict and, just neglected them and abused them. And then he's like still going to school every day. And then the other main character is a woman who just moved back there. And she's dealing with like alcoholism and the family, like the child abuse that she suffered from her father when she lived in that town in Oregon. Like she left her brother behind when she got old enough. And then he bared like the brunt of their father's abuse. And so like she kind of built a bond with that boy because she can recognize, the signs of a kid that's like suffering all this stuff at home. But it's really good. I don't want to like go too much further into it than that, but essentially it's like a lot of the big focus is about like abuse through generations and like how it affects you.
Hmm.
And but it's all wrapped up in like this Native American mythology that follows like the creature that attacked these men
Hmm.
and like
Hmm.
what it's doing to them. So it's kind of interesting because there's definitely some cool creature designs and it's really violent and scary. But it's also very like character driven. Like
Hmm.
the monster's almost kind of like the background thing in the movie. It's really more focused on these people and the different kind of routes that they've taken to overcome the abuse. Like she's combating her alcoholism. There's multiple scenes in the movie where the teacher's like at the grocery store staring at the alcohol behind the counter and like keeps like managing to not buy any and she'll like buy some gum or something instead. But then each day, like that she's had like a hard day, she always goes back to the store and is just like fighting the temptation to buy a bottle of something to take home with her. So it was really good. I recommend it for sure. It's only in theaters right now, so people who are still staying away from movie theaters will have to wait a little bit to watch it. But I'm
Yeah,
sure
are
it'll be
people
on a
still worried
streaming
about
thing.
that?
I don't know.
Are
This is
they
actually the
still
first
worried?
time we have gone back to the movies since COVID started. So it's been almost like a year and a half, almost
How
2
the
years
fuck are
since
they
we.
still in business, these fucks?
Well, a lot of them just shut down for a while. The movie theater, like the movie theaters around here, our Cinemark was just closed for a while, and then they were open and you could, but they were only open for a little while where you could rent out a theater for like your family.
Oh,
So they just
yeah.
charge you like $100 and you'd pick one of the movies to watch and you just rent the whole theater to you, whoever. There was like a,
That's kind of cool.
yeah. So they were
I
doing
miss
that for a
that.
while.
Miss that train. That'd have been fun for a party or something. A cheap rental
Yeah.
where you don't have to buy, like half the fucking
Well, yeah,
seats.
because it was I think it was like $100, but the movies were like older movies from the 80s and 90s. So
Oh,
you
just
just pick
stuff
from
they
the
had on file.
selection. Yeah.
That's cool
And
too.
then I think you could spend like $200 and like you'd rent it out and actually like screen a new movie. So it was a lot more expensive, but
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I didn't know they
yeah.
were
But
doing
now
that.
it's like back to normal. Like we went to the theater and it was busy and there were people everywhere and
Yeah. Yeah, I
it was
went to
fun to
see
go
Dune.
back.
I saw Dune right after we recorded
Oh yeah,
last
yeah.
time. And there were a few people there. It wasn't packed. But it was like at
Hmm.
3 or whatever in the afternoon. So it
Well, and that's a
wasn't too
movie too
busy.
that you could just watch at home if you had a HBO
Yeah,
Max.
HBO
Because I'm
Max
sure a
for
lot of
sure.
people just were like, "Yeah, I'll just stay home and watch it. I'm already a subscriber." So
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people did. I thought about just getting HBO Max just then because I was like, perfect timing. I could,
hmm
just get it and then watch it. But I was like, I want to watch it on the big screen. I like
yeah,
that
that's a movie I feel
experience.
like would
It's
be
fun.
really cool on the in the theater
Yeah, it was. It was
as a
big
spectacle film.
and it's all spectacle. It's
Hmm.
like almost no development of what's going on and explanation of what's going on. Just things happen. And you're like,
Hmm.
as a reader of the books, I knew what was going on, like
Hmm.
internally. But as a person who didn't read the books, I would imagine it would be like a lot of info that doesn't all make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Um, as far as the context of the words that they say.
it's one of those movies where like if you're not familiar with the subject matter, it's just a lot of silly fucking names being thrown around. Like you're just like, I don't know what that is. Like
Yeah,
it's just random sci-fi mumbo jumbo that they're just kind of tossing out there.
but it's pretty.
Because the original, the movie from like '84 covered the whole first book in like 2.5 hours. And so that movie like moves really quickly. And then there's just like these weird internal monologue
Yeah,
exposition dumps and stuff to just rapidly explain whatever they're talking about real quick. So the pacing for the new one's much better. And of course, they only covered like half for the book or something,
yeah.
I think, in the movie.
As far as coverage, as a snob, they didn't cover shit. But
Oh, really?
they
Yeah.
made it from the beginning of the book to the middle of
Hmm.
the book as far as the major like story beats and major events that like kind of would have taken place, but they missed. I mean, like there's just a ridiculous amount of uh, explanation and context and politics and relationships and vocabulary and things that you would learn, if they took time to make the movie more fleshed out.
It's surprising that they didn't turn it into like a TV show. It seems like it
Yeah, I
would be
don't
the
know why
perfect
not.
kind of thing to do like a 10 or 12 episode just season of
Yeah,
show and just
it would
really
be
give
awesome.
yourself time.
It'd be like the new Battlestar Galactica, where it's like they use terms you don't know, but you just get used to it, and
Hmm.
it's sci-fi. But yeah, just I mean, they probably couldn't use those same actors, but just put a shit ton of money into it, make the new Game of Thrones, and it's very similar to that in that it's all about politics and espionage and backstabbing and plots that are like, they're like the
Hmm.
Bene Gesserit are planning things like thousands of years in advance, and they know their history and all this stuff that you don't really get to see from the movie.
Hmm.
um there's just a ton. And then like there's a guy who tries to assassinate Paul in it, and he is like in a cement piece of the building, and he just got cemented in there before the people left, and they just sort of breeze by that like, oh, I don't know, that's just this guy in a fucking thing. um which isn't a big part of the book, but the idea that the Harkonnens would be that interested in killing Paul that they would put a dude in the fucking wall.
Hmm.
There's just, yeah, I loved it though. I just the production value and the everything coming to life that I've been thinking about in my head for so long, it was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I enjoyed everything they did. I just wish they had done it in a more fleshed out, like slower, way slower way, because the
I
book
feel
is
like
way slow.
not reading the book helped me enjoy the
Yeah,
movie
I'm
more
sure.
because like I didn't have a reference point. Because that's the case for like almost any book that gets turned into a movie, especially when you take like a 500-page novel and you turn it into a 90 to 120-minute film. It's like there's just so much that gets cut out of it that the book is always better.
Yeah, and the book is very difficult to read and very
I always just got bored reading it. I
odd.
tried reading it like twice, and I think I get maybe 100 pages in, and I'm just like, I'm just bored. Like this
Yeah.
is just, it's not interesting enough to like keep trudging through.
Yeah, I'm sure that from the very beginning it took me a while to get into it, but once I got used to his writing style, I just everything became like in my head. I could just
Hmm.
picture it all, and it got very action oriented kind of later on in the books. The beginning of the books doesn't have a ton of action.
No, yeah,
And he's very verbose. He just explains things like to ridiculous detail.
yeah. I don't
Like,
know. That's a writing style I have a hard time with. I'm like, let's
yeah,
just give me a few descriptors and let's fucking move on. Like, I
yeah.
get it.
It's like a 4 second event of like somebody stabbing someone, and it's like 3 pages of their
I know.
internal thinking and like their past, and then like how they got there, and then what they're gonna do if they win or if they lose, and then it's, yeah, he does that kind of stuff. It's not
Plotting out their
that
whole
bad, but
life in that one moment.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
just one of
it
those
was
to each their
enjoyable.
own. Some people like that kind of writing style, and other people like myself, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah, I just think that there's better ways to tell your story other than just like a big exposition dump of just like here's a bunch of information about this person. All of a sudden, it's like you got to find a way to sort of weave that into the story so
Yeah.
that people are learning about the character without it feeling like they're learning about the character.
Well, and
Um,
it's old, and it's not
mhm.
like mainstream as far as the actual reading of the book. Like a lot of people know about it, and it's had a lot of time to develop itself as a thing, but it's still like one of those things that a lot of people just aren't. It's not like Harry Potter. Like you can just read Harry Potter. It's pretty much for teens and such.
Mhm.
And so it has massive, uh, creative value that other people can add to it because so many people are involved and have checked it out.
You should when you get the chance, you should watch the movie from 1984. Just as it's very interesting. That movie is something else. Like
Yeah.
it's fucking wild to watch. Like, yeah, it's interesting how much like movies have changed over the decades. Not obviously from like a visual standpoint and a special effects standpoint, but just like the way we tell stories in movies. Because when you watch the 1984 version of Dune, there's a lot of like internal monologues where you hear the characters just doing a voiceover while they're like just standing in a scene, and the voiceover is just them explaining a whole bunch of stuff. It's a very dialogue heavy movie. Whereas the new version of Dune, like there's dialogue, but it seems, I don't know, that they were able to like cut a lot of dialogue down compared to the 1984 one. Like they don't really stop and explain a lot. It just sort of moves and you just have to kind of understand as you're going what's going on.
Yeah. You can tell that, like, one group of people is attacking another group of people, and
Yeah.
this one has help from the Imperial people, and then these guys are obviously going to die because they weren't ready for it at all. Yeah, in
Well,
the
it's
book,
easy to tell who the
yeah,
bad guys are because they're like fat, bald guys.
yeah,
So
that
there's just
gross
fat,
dude.
bald, white dudes that look disgusting, and you're like, they're the bad guys right there. There's a real
Yeah,
visual cue.
in the book, the Harkonnen main guy is like Hitler, Mao, Kim Jong Il, like, and Jabba the Hutt, like all mixed up, and like, and a asshole pedophile murderer.
Hmm.
So they make him, the actor did a really good job in the movie, I thought, of
In the
being,
1984 film, the villain is so cartoony and ridiculous. He's just this big fat guy that levitates around. He's got these like big boils and sores all over his face and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I love how all the good guys, especially in the new Dune, are just like very clean and they've got like
Hmm.
long flowing hair and they're all like super attractive
I like the
people. And
elves.
it's like, can we flip this where these fucking bald fat dudes are like all the good guys
That'd
and
be
all
awesome.
these really suave and attractive looking people are all fucking pieces of shit villains. So
Yeah, the Atreides.
mhm.
Yeah, in the book, they there's a long amount of time when they get there and when they like learn about the Fremen, and then they like start to mine the spice, and there's like a whole buildup of like them getting into the culture and learning about Arrakis, and then Paul learning about everything, and then slowly but surely there's this battle, and the Harkonnens take over and all that. Um, but in the movie, it's just like 2 seconds. Like
Yeah, they get
they're
there
on
and then they're
Arrakis, and then
gone. Yeah.
almost like the next week they're gone. But that's
Mhm.
that's not what it's like in the book. It just takes, it's more realistic in the book.
Mhm.
They went there to go do a job. They didn't just get there. I mean, anyway, I have mixed feelings about
Yeah.
the movie. I thought, if I love the production value, and the way everything looked was really cool. And I like got genuinely like emotional during while I watched it, because it was just so close to what I was expecting and what I pictured in my head. Um, and then it just sort of all just was like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Now we're at that point. Okay, that's crazy. It's so
Yeah.
fast. I
I think
don't
that's
really
the
get it. I don't really get what they were. I get that they're trying to accomplish enough of the book, but why not just take your time with it? It's like, I don't know. Like, isn't that the kind of the main thing nowadays with productions, is to like have it last years and years and years?
well, I think that's, I mean, this will last for at
I mean,
least
this will
two
still
movies,
last.
and then they're gonna,
Oh,
I mean, well, they already confirmed that the sequel just got greenlit, so
yeah.
that's for sure happening. And then the movie reminded me of like Star Wars, but kind of like more for adults. Like it had that feel to it where like things are moving at a rapid pace to keep like your average audience member interested in what was
Yeah.
happening and giving you just enough to understand, kind of like you said earlier, like these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, like the good guys are coming. It's like they tell you enough to help you understand like the skeleton of the story.
Mhm.
But it reminded me a lot of like Star Wars, where because
Yeah.
Star Wars is like that. Star Wars movies are really quick. Like each of those movies are only like maybe 2 hours, especially the original trilogy. And so
Yeah.
movies always moved at a pretty rapid
That's
pace
true. A
without
lot of
explaining a lot.
action. There's like
Mhm.
little pieces of dialogue where you're like getting to know
Mhm.
a character real quick,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're back into major events.
So I feel like their goal was probably how do we take Dune, which is kind of like a not really like a cult classic because it's bigger than that. Like it's a pretty well renowned piece of science fiction, but how do you create something that will appeal to just like your average viewer?
Yeah,
And I feel like
totally.
that with that goal in mind, they nailed it because I feel like as somebody who hasn't really enjoyed trying to read the books, I watched the movie and I'm like, that was good. I enjoyed it. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited to see the next one and kind of see where it goes.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I'm excited. I'll watch them all. But if they're trying to make it last a while, they definitely could, because of how many books there are.
Hmm.
But I think the real thing that they didn't like, somebody spent a shit ton of money to make this movie, and I think that they weren't sure they could get someone to write a movie or to write a show that would work. Like with Game of Thrones, it starts off very close to the book within the first like few episodes, or even the first season's pretty close, and then
Yeah.
they just go off into wherever they want land. And I think they're worried that if they did that with Dune, it would just get uh, lambasted. People just wouldn't like it,
Hmm.
um, because the people who would be the most into it would be the people who read the book. But like you said, it's very Star Warsy. It's very
Hmm.
modern. I'm sure it's going to have a huge audience anyway. Like young people are going to love it. Like, if you're a kid and you watch this, you're like, oh, it's got a young main star, and he gets a girlfriend, and they're living warrior's life, and there's lots of explosions. So
Hmm.
what's not to like?
Well, I feel like too, it's one of those things where for people who just want it to be entertained, it works. But then for people who want something like to dig more into like the lore, then it's like, well, you have the novels. And I feel like
Oh
that's kind
yeah,
of how
for sure.
um like Game of Thrones and stuff works. It's like they gotta make it in such a way that your average person's going to enjoy it, but then there's obviously an alternative for people who really want to get it super into it. Because I feel like if they did like a 10 episode season for the first Dune movie and then really explored some of this, I feel like there's just probably maybe too many people
Yeah,
they felt like would not be interested in
it'd be
all
too
that
boring.
excess stuff.
Yeah,
So it's
it'd
like
almost be like a soap opera.
yeah.
It could be. Yeah, it's weirdly psychological and internal, the whole book. So you get rid of a lot of that, and you just end up with the external fucking fights.
Hmm. So I
Um,
always recommend people just read the
hmm.
book. If you watch like a movie and you really enjoyed the movie, it's like go read the book then, because the book's gonna have even more. Like it's gonna be able to explain
Way
things so
more.
much more.
Sure. I'm sure
Um,
that'll happen. People will read the
mhm.
book for sure. It's going to have a whole
Yeah.
big surge, which is why I have my book review pinned to my Facebook
Oh,
page
there you go.
right at the top
I
when
mean, after
nobody
watching the movie,
sees
I
it.
was I was tempted to read the book again. I think I still have it on my shelf over there.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, ugh, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to do it. I
It's
got other
long.
shit to read. I got so much
Yeah.
stuff to read.
I think I'm going to give up on my current book. I'm about halfway through, and I was reading last night, and in
Hmm.
my head was going, I'm bored
Yeah,
while I'm reading. And I'm like, that's
it's
probably
hard.
a good sign to like, I tried. I just don't care. It's got too many characters to try to keep track of, and I just don't care about any of them. It's a
What are you reading?
mystery. It's a murder on the Iditarod Trail,
Did
and
we talk about that last time?
yeah, I
Did you
talked
start
about it
reading it
before.
last time? Okay, I
I
was like,
started
that sounds
reading it a
familiar.
while back, but it's a short book. But I was reading, and it's like, what about uh John and Schuler and Polet and Jack and Jill? And it's like, I don't know who any of those characters are. I don't care
Yeah.
if they killed anybody. I don't care who dies. So it like there isn't enough like singular character that I care about, that I get what their motivation are. Like there's a cop. I don't know why he gives a shit.
Mhm.
There's other people, and they don't seem to be massively concerned that a bunch of people have died and been murdered, but also they were murdered in a way that it could have just been accidents. So it's like, did they really mean to murder him? And then nobody's been murdered in a while. I'm just bored.
Yeah, I would say put it down then,
I think I'm
man.
gonna put it back to Goodwill. Give
I've
it
started
back.
I've tried to do that a lot more, like with just anything in my life where I'm like, if I'm playing a
Yeah.
game or reading a book and I'm like, it gets to this point where you're like, I'm not even looking forward to like going to bed and
Mm.
reading tonight because I don't care. It's like, well, then obviously it's time to move on to another book. There's too many things to enjoy in life for you to waste time on something that you don't really care about. Like
Yeah,
with
it's like
books, I usually do like a 50 to 100 pages in a book, and if I'm not interested or captured by then,
yeah.
I'm like, well, time to move on. This is on the writer for not hooking me sooner.
Yeah,
Um,
or it's just not for you.
yeah, that too.
It's not all books are supposed to be fucking amazing for every single person. They're for
Hmm.
different people. But like I just got done reading a book that was super duper compelling, and I couldn't stop reading. And to go to a book that I'm like 2 pages and I'm like, oh, I'll put it down. It's like, why even, when I can go
Hmm.
find more exciting books or just read the next Dune book, which I still need to get into. I need to get into the last one, but I gotta commit. I gotta
Yeah.
commit to it. It'll
Yeah,
be
sometimes that's
exciting.
tough. I need to read like I've been reading through the Expanse books. I don't know if you watched that show on Amazon at all.
Nope.
Fantastic sci-fi. You should definitely check it out. But
Fantastic sci-fi.
yeah. And so
The
I've read like the first
Expanse.
5 books, and there's 9 of them total. I think the last one just came out not too long ago. And I've been trying to trying to stay ahead in the books before I watch the show, because I don't want the show to spoil anything in the books for me. Because the show follows the books actually pretty damn well. And
Mm,
so I need to read the
nice.
sixth Expanse novel. But each of the novels is at least like 600 pages. And so it's like an undertaking when you're like, okay, time to read the next one.
Wow.
You should check them out though. The books are really good. Or if you're not ready to invest in 9 books that are all 600-700 pages long, then the Amazon show is really good. It's about to do the final season.
Oh
They're just
wow.
doing the first 6 books because there's a big change up in after the 6th book, I guess. That I don't want to spoil for people who are maybe listening, but so they're basically ending the show after this next season, which covers the first 6 books, and then
Wow.
they're stopping the show there with its 6th season. But it's kind of like Game of Thrones in space, but not as there's not as many characters, and it's not as like politically complex, I feel like, as Game of
Mm.
Thrones. It's a little bit more like mainstream, but
Like only like
there's
there's
a
like
lot of like
two bad
espionage and
guys.
political stuff, but
Mm.
it's not like you're not tracking the progress of like 6 fucking houses and all the bullshit that they're trying to do to usurp each other. um but
Yeah,
it's really
Game of
good.
Thrones is
It's like the first book is the chapters alternate between the 2 main characters, and one is a police officer that lives in the asteroid belt, doing a missing persons case, and then the other one is somebody who works on this ship who gets attacked by like some unknown force in the beginning, and then he ends up becoming the captain of his own small ship. But it's really good. You'd like it because you enjoy those kind of stories, I think. It's very I feel like you'd get some Dune vibes off of it. Like you can tell the writers obviously like grow up reading Dune and like other sci-fi like that.
or
um,
yeah, it's funny how much stuff comes from Dune
mhm.
that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I
Well,
think
even when we were watching the Dune movies, like with the Star Wars references, I was like, George Lucas had to have read the book, but when like before he wrote Star Wars, because there's just certain things
didn't
in
even
there that are very like force, like you know how like in Dune, like they have these like different mental powers, and
the
they have that
voice.
the voice and all this stuff, and I'm like, the voice is just a Jedi mind trick. I mean, there's you can tell that they were definitely. I'm not saying he ripped him off, but I would be blown away if you found out from George Lucas that he's never read Dune. I'm like, you had to have read Dune before you were writing Star Wars, because there's definitely some Tatooine. How's that not just Arrakis, really?
Yeah, and they do use swords,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like the samurai or the it's kind of samurai medieval kind of stuff going
Mm-hmm.
on.
So I know George Lucas
Um,
was inspired a lot by like Toriyama's films, like the Samurai, like Seven
yeah, Seven
Samurai and
Samurai.
stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like he was inspired by that and World War II and different
yeah.
things. But I'm like, he had to have read Dune because there's definitely some
Well, when did Star
links.
Wars come out? When did he write it? In the
Well, so
60s?
I actually looked it up because the Dune novel was published in 1965, so that's when it was available for people to read. And then you gotta figure the first Star Wars film came out in 78, I want to say. I think it was 78, 80, 81, or and then 83, like for the
Okay.
original trilogy. So I mean, he probably started writing, I would say, maybe 10 years after Dune came out, 8 to 10
Okay.
years, I'd
So
say.
yeah, more likely he got a chance to read it. It was pretty popular back then as a sci-fi movie or a
Yeah.
sci-fi book time. Yeah. Did you do anything for Halloween?
We just gave out candy. We put Dizzy in the bedroom once the kids started knocking because she freaks out anytime somebody's at the door. And then
Hmm.
we had Reese in his little Batman costume. And
Oh,
so he was just
nice.
all excited answering the door of Vanessa when they were handing out candy. But we had a lot. We last year we didn't have hardly any trick or treaters, but I think that was more of a COVID thing. And then this year we had quite a few more. But yeah, we had trick or treaters for probably about 3-4 hours last night, and then went to bed. That was
Nice.
about it.
That's cool. You have
We're just watching horror movies the whole time while we were giving out candy.
a little community of people that'll feel safe enough to walk around and bring their kids
Yeah,
around.
well, we live like in a neighborhood here in Harrisburg, like a little suburban type neighborhood. So I
Nice.
like last year we thought we would have more because there's so many kids in our area, but I think most of
COVID.
them just didn't. Yeah. But this year there was definitely people out and about.
Nice. Yeah, I worked all day and
Oh, really?
it was sucked. It was a very obnoxious day of work.
Was
Uh,
it like slower for you guys? 'Cause I imagine people would be like busy, preparing for Halloween, but
Well, it was crazy busy Saturday
Mhm.
because it was the day before Halloween,
Yeah.
and also, it's going into Christmas and Thanksgiving, and all that's coming up really soon.
Yeah, I know.
And it was a beautiful day, and the nicer the day, typically people who may have chosen not to go out will go out. And then Sunday it was like slow for a couple hours, and then it just went nuts, and it was busy for the vast majority of the time we were open. And I had a couple of people steal stuff, and there was a guy I chased out of the store and tried to grab the item from him a little bit here and there,
Woohoo.
and he did not like that very much. But and then they decided to speed through the parking lot and almost hit people,
Oh,
and then they decided to come back and speed through the parking lot and almost hit people again.
what what
So
what did they steal? Like, was it worth the
a
hassle?
couple $100 worth of electronic products.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Not worth anything really.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I don't
just, I
know.
mean,
They were just, I think they were trying to pick somebody up who they had driven off from. And anyway, yeah, it was frustrating and stressful. And I thought they were going to hurt somebody outside of my store. And I had to kind of be prepared to call the police if I saw them again, but they didn't come back. So I was, that was shitty.
yeah, it
But
sounds like it.
all things come to an end in retail, and the day finalized at 6 o'clock, and we got to close.
And you got today off, didn't you? So
And I was off today. Yeah, I
nice
was
little
very glad.
respite from the weekend.
Yeah, and I've been
The rest.
very lazy today.
Sounds like you deserved it, man. You're literally fucking chasing thieves around. So,
Yeah, well, and today it was just windy as shit and raining
hmm.
and super cold. So I just stayed home for the most part. I did my laundry and I went shopping for groceries. I tried to walk to a neighboring apartment complex to go get a refill on my little laundry card because I have to use a stupid fucking laundry card. I
Hmm.
can't just put quarters in or use a credit card or whatever. I have to go get it's like a little uh, electronic card with a chip on it, and I have to walk. I can't refill it online or nearby. I have to go to another apartment complex.
That's a cool idea. Too bad you can't refill it. Like, why can't they give you a website where you just punch in your card number or something, and then they just,
I
you
went
pay
to the
for however
website.
many?
I couldn't figure it out. And I
Huh.
haven't tried it in a while. And I
Hmm.
tried calling the apartment complex and I said, "Hey, like, what's going on with this card? I don't know how to use this thing." And they're like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Well, fuck. I guess I'll fucking figure it out."
So is it like a machine that you take it to and you like plug it in and then
Yeah.
mess around on a kiosk or something to refill it?
Yeah, you put in
Hmm.
that card and then you type in how much you want to add and then you put in your debit card and then you go. And then so I walked all the way over there and the machine is down. It doesn't work. And I'm like, "Well, I'm running low on my stupid laundromat money."
So
So
is
anyway,
there a way to do it online and you just haven't been able to
I've got
figure
to
it out,
check it
or is it
out.
just,
I'm
oh,
sure
okay.
there why wouldn't there be? It's
Yeah, there's
it's all
gotta be.
digital.
I
It's
don't
a
understand.
little
Yeah.
card.
Because if I feel like it'd be weird if you couldn't just punch your number in and
You
then
know, it might not
tell
be
them how much.
because I don't know if the laundry machines are connected to the internet because I think the laundry machine itself just reads the card and does math to it. I don't think it actually goes to the internet to check my account to see what's on the card like a debit card would do.
But wouldn't it have to be online to like charge your credit card, right?
It's no, that's a different machine.
Oh, okay.
That's a machine that's connected to the internet specifically for adding money to the little card. But you have to leave your card in it. So it's just doing math to the card and then it's using the internet to get the money out.
Mhm.
But then the machines, I think they're just dumb. I think they're just digital and it's just like it reads the card, it goes, "You have money," it takes it off. I don't think it goes, through the internet to the account. So if I go on the internet and add money to the card, the machine doesn't know that.
Hmm.
Like, how does the card know? The card wouldn't be connected to the internet, so it doesn't know that I added money to it. It would
I
need to
just
go through a
figured. Well, I
system.
just figured it would load it into a chip or whatever. You said there's a chip on the.
There's a chip on it, but I don't think that chip is. I don't think. I don't know how it would know.
Hmm.
Like your debit card doesn't know how much money you have. The
No, it
machine
just
that reads
you
it
just plug it in
knows.
and then it communicates with your
It
bank
goes to
account
the
and
bank,
tells you.
right?
Yeah.
And the bank, and then they do a transaction. But I don't know if that. I don't think it's that smart. I think
No,
it's a
probably not.
dumb. I think it's a dumb
Well, it sounds
system.
like a cool idea, like on paper, but yeah, if you, I would
Well,
only want to use something like that if I could refill it online because it'd be nice to like hop on, refill it, and then go do your
yeah,
laundry.
it
Like,
wouldn't be so
instead.
bad if they had the little kiosk thing at my apartments. I
Mhm.
don't know why they only have it at certain
Are the
ones.
other apartments like all owned by the same people, and that's why
Yeah,
you
they're all
can?
the
Oh,
same company. So just, and they're using the same system.
yeah.
It's
Why would you not have one in every one of your apartments,
it's like this little
like
box. It's just a little
complexes?
box that's connected to the internet, and that's it. So anyway, it's really dumb. And I remember the first time I tried to do laundry, I went over there with my laundry, and I was like, "Oh, I thought it had a credit card reader, but it was this specialty card, and I didn't know that." And so I had to call the people, and I'm like, "Hey, how do I do my laundry?" And they're like, "Oh, you have to get this card, and we can't send it to you without you coming to the office, filling out a piece of paper that says I'm responsible for my little card."
Why the fuck
So it
would
took
they
like a
not have you
week
do
and a
that
half
in
to do
your
that.
during your like application process? Why would they not be like, hey, we're gonna have you? Are you planning to use our laundry facilities? Because we'll need you to have you fill this out with
Yeah.
your application. Like,
I
what the
don't
fuck?
know if the information's in the packet, but obviously I hadn't signed the thing because I had to fill out a physical form to get the stupid card. Anyway, that's the life of like living in a fucking slumlord in Portland,
Yeah.
slumlord land, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I don't miss the days of using laundromats. It's nice to just buy your own set of laundry machines and just take care of everything yourself. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
I have fucking people come over like we have my mother-in-law comes over to do her laundry here, so she just has to deal with the laundromat.
Yeah. I used to do it at my brother's because he lived just across the road. And I would
Mm-hmm.
do it at his place for like the first year I lived here. And then they fucking moved
Out to the middle of nowhere.
middle of nowhere where they don't even have a washer and dryer
Or
anyway.
electricity. I heard they don't even have electricity.
No, they have
They wash
electricity.
themselves in the cold spring.
Oh, that would suck right now. It's so fucking
Well, then
cold.
maybe they'll boil some of the water. I don't know.
That would be the
They heat it up
opposite.
old timey style.
Yeah, they could do that. They could get a little tub,
Hey, I mean, you don't bathe in the boiling water. You just get it to a boil and then
and
you
then you
let it
mix it with the
cool
cold
just a little
water.
bit.
Yeah.
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 You want to boil out the impurities at the creek because
Yeah.
we live in a filthy land where nothing is sacred anymore.
Nothing is
Just use
sacred.
condoms and bubble gum floating in all the creeks or
Jesus.
cricks, depending
What
on where you're from.
what cricks are you looking at? They definitely have a crick. Use condoms and bubble gum. What kind of that's a good party.
Name of your new band.
Yeah, that's a long name for a band. Yeah, I went to a Halloween party. That was fun. I went
Oh, really?
a week ago, before Halloween, the weekend before Halloween, at a friend's house. That was fun. I stayed up way too late and chatted with a bunch of people I didn't know and tried to have a good time. And it was fun.
Well, it sounds like you succeeded then if you're trying to have a good time and then it
Yeah,
was also fun. So
I
congratulations.
think I succeeded.
I
I
went to a
went to
Halloween
it very
party
chill.
on Saturday, but it was also a birthday party for a 3-year-old. So you imagine how exciting that was. Bunch of
Not
fucking
at
kids
all.
running around and people I didn't know. And I
Ugh.
just stood there for 2 hours waiting to leave.
Yeah. Are we gone
While
yet?
like trying to like be somewhat social with some people, but I'm just like, I don't know any of these people. I'm not going to see them again for at least another year. I don't care. I have no plans to build any kind of rapport or relationship with any of
Hmm.
them. I'm
I
just
get
trying to
nothing
get through
from
this.
this.
This is my familial obligation to my wife because she asked me to come.
Hmm.
So I'm
Hello,
thankful that
family
Vanessa
obligation.
does. I know. I'm glad that she doesn't ask me to go to all because it's all her family stuff. Like my mom lives in Boston. I don't talk to my dad, so it's like I have no family on my side that I do anything with. And so any family gatherings is all her family. And so she's at least nice enough to know that I don't care about family gatherings all that much. And so she usually just goes to them herself. And then every once in a while, she'll ask me to come along and I do it because she didn't ask me about the last like 5 or whatever. So every once in a while I show up because I feel like I should.
It's
And
probably a
this
good
is one of those
idea for
occasions.
people to know who you are. Like,
I'm okay if they don't know. I
I
mean,
know, but it
I
could
could just
come in
be, I
handy,
could
man.
just,
You could go missing. You maybe like win the lottery. No, you don't want anybody knowing you at that point.
no, yeah.
Maybe you need a loan. Maybe you have an emergency. Maybe you lose your job and like you lose a leg, and then you're like, man, I'm so glad that I have some
I'm
family
so
that's
glad
willing
that
to
I have
support me.
suicide as an option. I mean, that's
You're
really my
you're not gonna kill yourself just because you lose a fucking foot or something to diabetes.
to diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up dying like sad and alone. I know this because I don't really, I'm not very good at building relationships with people like outside of like a very small group. And so I just know that, like depending on how long I live, I mean, maybe if I make it to like 80, there's a decent chance you'll be dead by then. Like most people I know are probably gonna
I
be
hope.
dead or
I hope
close.
I'm dead.
So
Hope I'm dead soon.
So,
Just
like
kidding.
once if Vanessa dies first, then I'm just gonna be this like sad, lonely person living by himself with like a dog.
I feel like a lot of old people end up that way. Because as you
Yeah.
get older, all your people die anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
But I think
actually
the point is to live well now, like to have
yes. Yeah.
relationships now that you can enjoy. Like it's not necessarily all about like I don't what do people expect when they get old? They're gonna go like play cards and shit like
I don't know. Yeah.
all the time. You're not
But
gonna hang
I
out more
do you
than
ever
now.
I mean, do you ever just like sit and really think about like 60 years from now when you're just like, what am I gonna fucking do? Like if all these people I know are like I mean, in like 60 years, all the people we know like are gonna be dying off. And so, and then you're gonna
Yeah,
have all these people younger than you, all these other
I'm
generations,
gonna
and
be
none of them will
I'm
give a
gonna be
fuck about you
fucking them
because you're
all.
just the old person
I'm gonna
who
fuck
fucking
all of
ruined
them.
the environment. And now we're all living under a dome. Um,
Nah, yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows? I'm
uh,
gonna do a few things. One is I'm gonna keep working out so
oh,
that
okay,
I'm an old person who can move around.
that's
I'm
good.
gonna
Yeah,
try to eat well, but I'm gonna have fun
you're gonna
with my
make some
food.
mistakes. Yeah.
I'm going to save money for retirement so that
Mm,
I at some point have
wise.
just money lying around I can spend. I'm going to inherit some money that I already know of, and eventually, and that'll be a nice little way to stay less worried. And I'm going to keep having fun doing stuff I like playing
Nice.
games and playing guitar. If I keep playing guitar, by the time I'm 60, I'm going to finally be good. It's going to be amazing.
There you go. This is some
It might
long-term
take
goals right
that
there.
long. It might take 30 more years for me to finally be able to play a fucking dumb song. I
But you
still am
did
just
it.
playing the
That's what
same
matters. Is
songs
that you
over and over and
stuck it.
over and
You
over and
stuck
over
it
and
through.
over.
You stuck through the whole thing, through the trials and
I hope
tribulations.
so.
You never stopped.
It's a thing that I hope that I never stop doing. I mean, unless I don't want to, and then I hope
Hmm.
I just give it up immediately and break everything. Because I don't want to be a fucking person who's stuck on things just because I was doing them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I want to keep playing pool. I want to keep going shooting guns and maybe get more money and spend more money on guns.
Nice. That's
That's
very
fun.
American of you.
Fuck yeah. I have a very eclectic set of hobbies. Like I play pool and I shoot guns. It's like
That's
super
very
cosmopolitan.
American, you know?
Oh wait, is that like stereotypical
You're
male?
just missing
Like
the beer drinking. You're
no,
just not a raging alcoholic.
no, I'm not. I'm not a waging alcoholic. I like playing poker. Oh, that's more dude things. I like to sing and I like to dance and I like to play
Woo.
guitar. That is
So
not
you're one
a
of them
stereotypical.
homosexual
Yeah,
fellas.
immediately. You one of them gay shooters. You like to
Yeah.
shoot guns, but you probably gay because you like to sing, even though my favorite singers are country singing men.
Yeah.
Even though I get a little excited when I hear my Garth Brooks and my
I get a little titillated, you might say.
yeah. You ever hear that Arms of a Ranger song? That song gives me a stiffy every time.
And the thunder rolls.
And the thunder rolls and the lightning strikes. That's a good fucking song. There's a reason you just said that out loud, and that's because
No,
it's
oh
a good
yeah, it's
fucking
because it's a
song.
great song.
Some
I don't
great
really ever
country.
listen to it, but it's very iconic for
Do
sure.
you know Sturgill Simpson? He's like a modern country singer who's also like
Mm,
has psychedelic and interesting, and also does blues and stuff too. I
not
recommended
familiar,
his
yeah.
his movie on Netflix called Sound and Fury, and it's fucking awesome. And I think you'd like it. It's you guys should watch it. You and Vanessa together one
Sound and
night.
Fury.
I think that's what it's called.
Hmm.
It's like a country opera with a lot of rock
Whoa.
in there too.
Oh, okay.
But it's also it's all animated by but with like anime. So it's like samurai stuff, and
That sounds familiar. Actually.
you've seen the probably a trailer for it.
Yeah, I feel like I have because I think
Highly
I remember seeing a
recommend it.
trailer like that, and I was like, "Oh, that looks trippy. I kind of want to watch that," and then I just forgot about it.
Also, it's the eyes of a ranger, not arms.
So my
When the
arms.
eyes of a ranger are upon you.
Oh, I thought this was more of a love song where like
ranger's
you're
gonna
getting
be.
taken into the arms of a ranger.
Like in Lonesome Dove.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like those books, because all the
I'm in it
male
for
on
the
male.
romance.
Yeah, all the subtext.
Gunfights are nice, but I really just like the romance. I like myself
just
a good old wholesome country romance.
Gunfights just a prelude to men hugging.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I like it.
That was back when you could hug a man and it wasn't like a commitment to anything, you know?
Yeah, I'm not committed. I mean, I'm involved. But
I want to be there for you, but I just don't want to be committed, you know?
I'm fucking in love, but I'm afraid what it means.
Because I don't want my heart to be broken. God only gave me
Yeah.
one heart, and if you break it,
it's kind of
what
like
am I going to do?
It's like gay for the stay in prison, but like gay when you're out on the prairie.
Yeah, where you
We don't say
freedom,
nothing.
move about.
Don't ask, don't tell. Just
what
touch.
happens on the prairie, and that prairie grass stays out there. You know, it's the reason why it's so tall. God made the prairie grass tall, so he can hide them things.
Hide in that tall grass and do the demon's work. Do the devil's work. Devil's work. Do the demon with two backs.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, it'd be
Preach, brother.
like one back and one front. That's how gays do it, right? Gays don't.
I don't
do
know.
it
I'm just more
missionary.
into the hugging and the kissing. I
like to keep my queer in the elementary stages.
It's more of a second base type of thing, you know?
Imagine that. You're like 40 years old and you're a cowboy and you're like, I just want to hold hands and be that kind of gay. I'm not ready for anything big in my butt. I'm a furred.
I've got fears of commitment and penetration, and I'm just not ready.
Two things I fear. I'm not ready to be myself.
I'll hold your hand. I'll give you a peck on the cheek.
Just a little. Oh, we're super gay. Meet my boyfriend.
I don't even call him my boyfriend because this seems like committal. You know, I just say this here's my gentleman.
This sounds more like submission type. This is my fucking slave boy.
This is my partner, but then that they got co-opted by everybody. Everybody's got partners now.
Mm-hmm. So what if
gets
we interlock
confusing?
fingers?
You know, people used to say partner. That usually meant it's the same sex relationship, but now you got these docile female type men out there saying that they're partners and they're just talking about their wives. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, that is
partners
true. Like
for the homosexuals.
Yeah, if they're your wife, you just call them your wife or your girlfriend. What are you doing?
No,
they're not your
people
partner.
say partner. Everybody's got partners now. Now I'm confused. I used to be able to tell the cut of a man's jib when he said, "This is my partner."
Yeah.
I'd be like, homosexual. Like in my head, a big old light bulb will turn on. It said homosexual.
Big old
fancy
fucking
writing.
rainbow light bulb. Got a rainbow light bulb turned on that time.
But now this fella, he's like, I'd like to introduce you to my partner, Shaniqua. And I'm like, Shaniqua ain't no man's name.
Ain't no man I ever heard of.
Then here comes waltzing into this room, this big bouncing breasted brown sugar woman.
Wait, what? Did you say Brownson? I'm pretty sure you were ready to say brown and bounce, and you said Brownson. Was she handsome too, Brownson? All right, you're canceled. And canceled.
Oh man, have you
Nope.
Did you watch Dave Chappelle's newest stand-up?
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah,
it was okay. It was good in that, like, at least he's trying to be funny, which was nice.
There was only a couple moments I really laughed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I only ended up watching it. So like, I like watching all the stand-up, but then, everybody was or not everybody, but they're like a
Like
group
one
of
person.
people are very like upset and up in arms about the special. And I was like, well, I obviously need to watch this because he must say
Yeah.
something like,
It's good for his fucking show that everybody's
well,
giving it hard time. But
yeah,
if you watch it, it's like the whole like half of it is about that trans person that he knows.
hmm
And it's just like a pleasant story about somebody he knows. Who cares? It's super
yeah,
boring. I mean, it's not super boring. It's kind of an interesting story, but it's not like wildly funny. And it's about one thing the whole like for a very long period of time.
hmm
And the whole thing just shows that he has like a complicated relationship with transsexual people because he actually knows some, and he obviously is a person in the limelight, so he people give a shit what he thinks. But it's
hmm
like, I didn't what did he say that was weird? I don't get it.
I
Who
think it was just
cares?
because he was making the jokes, and so some people it's just are more sensitive to that type of thing right now. I guess I don't know. I think
Well,
I was
yeah,
watching it, but at the same time, I was like, well, I'm not a trans person, so I guess like I don't really I don't understand where they're coming from in terms of being offended by it. But I'm also somebody that I would joke about anything. Like
obviously.
yeah, because it's a joke, right? The whole point of a joke is that you're not actually stating things that you think. You're stating things in like a playful way to try to get a rise out of people and to try to get people to laugh. That's the point of a joke. It's not like he was up there and he's like, this is my seminar on how I feel about transsexuals.
But even if it was like a TED talk that
Yeah.
weirdly Dave Chappelle, the funny guy who's not qualified in any scientific way to speak
No.
about anything or academic way at all, um, even if he did a TED talk and it was about his opinions of trans people, who gives a fuck? He's a dude with an opinion. Who
hmm
gives a fuck? He doesn't have any power. I mean, he could go, everyone should murder trans people. I and I some people probably would, and that would be fucking horrible. But he
Yeah.
didn't do anything even near that level of
No,
fucking controversy.
no.
He said he doesn't really get it in the previous special he had. But why should he get it? Why? How would you possibly relate to somebody who wants to be another sex and does something about it? It's
Well, and
not that
that's
common.
yeah, and
Super
that's the
fucking
thing is
rare.
it's like people can't seem to accept that people don't won't get it and they never will get it. Like I won't ever understand the plight of a trans person because I don't know. I in my brain, I'm like, I don't understand not feeling like I want to be what I am, like what I was biologically born as. But I do understand that people do feel that way. So it's like, it's more about acceptance. It's like, I accept that
Yeah.
this person who identifies as a trans doesn't identify as whatever sex they were assigned at birth and with based off their reproductive organs. And so it's like you can accept that those people exist, but you can also admit that you can't really understand their thought processes or how they feel. Just like I'll never
Yeah.
understand what it's like to be a black man because I'm not a black man. So I don't understand. Like
Yeah.
I can
We sh-
try and
we
I can
can't
listen, but
there's no reason to want to live in a world where we all have to understand each other perfectly. The only reason that it matters is because we affect each other. And if
mhm,
they're not affecting me, I don't give a fuck. So,
yeah,
and the only thing that matters as far as equality goes is legal and like economic equality. People should be able to shop and to spend their money and to engage in American life equally as far as from a kind of access and legal standpoint.
yeah,
If something is a business that is open to the public, then everyone should be able to shop there. I like the rules about discrimination that America has about not being able to discriminate about certain aspects. Um, and getting a job, like those two things, being able to access places to buy stuff and being able to get a job, uh, that's already in place, and that's for the most part way better than it ever has been. And if there's stuff to fight about, then they can fight about it, and I can fight about whatever I feel like fighting about. But I don't have any. No trans person's ever done anything negative to me,
yeah. That's what
and I
it's like. Why
just
doesn't
don't
everybody just
plan on doing anything to them. I don't
yeah?
want to take any power away from anybody else or use power to hurt anybody.
Really, I
Most people aren't doing that.
just want to get by, you know. I just try to be nice and pleasant to everybody because that's how I would like to be treated as well, you know.
Yeah.
Really, it's just about respecting each other and just being
It's
fucking a
just
decent
drama.
person. It's
People
just
just have
yeah.
the news and entertainment is a lot of drama and bullshit, and it's not real. It's not real. There's no real
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like, even like COVID obviously is real, but the talk about COVID is drama. It's fucking
Yeah.
drama. Drama. Bah, 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 bah. People
Well,
just,
COVID, it just boils down to it exists, right? And then, certain businesses are going to follow certain rules. And if you want to shop at that establishment, you follow the rules. It's
well,
their
and the
property.
government made these
And
rules.
that too.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. The business doesn't want to fucking make everybody do something that they're uncomfortable with. They have to do it. They don't have a choice. It's just
Well,
like
and they
any
all,
other
yeah.
law.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
The
mandates
mandate
and
is
laws and
is as much a law as anything because it can be enforced with force and fines and imprisonment and criminal action. But it's barely being enforced. The businesses just don't want to get in trouble, and they
Mhm.
don't want people to hate them, and they don't want to get protested against. So they're doing what's best for them. Calm down. It's
Yeah.
fine. We're going to get over it. At some point, people would stop taking their masks and they'll stop wearing them. They're just
Yeah.
going to.
Well, we were almost there for a while. I mean, like in
We
June
were.
and like first part of July, I didn't wear my mask at all, like when I was going out, and then the
Yeah.
Delta variant hit, and here we are. And now it's like back down to downtrending, and I imagine if it continues that way in like another month or two, it'll probably be fine again. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah, I
I
just
don't
have
know.
other shit to deal with in my life than worrying about fucking
Exactly. I'm like,
COVID. Worrying
dude,
about
I'm like
COVID. I'm
plotting
not
out a
worried
whole
about
novel
flus.
right now.
I'm
I
not
don't
worried
care.
about plagues. I'm not worried about getting sick. I'm not worried about my grandma's getting sick. I don't have any. I'm not worried about my mom. She's in her 60s, and my aunt, she's in her 60s. It's not my I'm not getting them sick on purpose.
Mhm.
And I hope
On
no one gets
purpose.
them sick, but they're probably gonna get motherfucking sick at some point because that's how fucking life is. People
Mm,
fucking get sick and then they get old and then they die.
yeah, it's true. And
What am
maybe
I
they
supposed to do
switch.
about
Maybe
that?
they switch genders at some point on that
Ah,
timeline as well. Who
fucking
knows?
weird as shit, but fine. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, maybe your mom wants to live the last like 20 years of her life as a man. Maybe
That
she's
would be
gonna get a
super weird. Wow,
penoplasty
this is
and
gonna change everything in my brain right now. Blew my head up. I gotta call her daddy now. I barely got used to calling her mom.
well, and sometimes it's hard to like have those conversations. Like if it's like, wait, so do I call you dad now? Like, or do I still call you mom? And then like, some people on the trans person might get upset because you're trying to like understand the process here. You're like, we've designed society in a
Yeah.
box here,
Yeah.
and we're kind of poking at the edges of the box now. So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure
It is
this
the
all out.
edge.
Yeah.
Because there's the statistics are like, very low that somebody's going to decide that they want to be a different gender. But because it's rare, it gets a lot of attention.
Mhm.
And you don't get to control people's reactions. If your kids don't like that you all of a sudden do something that is changes your relationship with them, like if you get married to someone else as a parent, your kids aren't necessarily going to be okay with that. You don't get to control their actions.
Yeah.
And maybe you chose something that they don't understand. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird and selfish to be like, I don't like you because you're now look different. Like, I don't care what my parents look like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Really.
physically, like I care the way that they treat me. And now that we're adults, just treat them like adults.
Mhm.
I try to. It's obviously it's deeper than that, but my mom's like a friend, and my dad's like a person I don't talk to, like another adult, like a lot of
Yeah.
like the vast majority of human beings on the earth. I very much don't engage with him.
That's why I don't
What are we
engage
talking?
with
Are we
much
talking
of
about
my.
my mom?
Well, that's why I don't engage with a lot of my family because I'm just like, if I wasn't born of these people, like I probably would never talk to them. So it's like there's a lot of that's why a lot of my family are like, you never talk to me. I'm like, because I don't want to. I don't know anything about you. You're a stranger to me.
Weird.
Just because we share some DNA, that's about where this relationship begins
Yeah.
and dies. So
Yeah, and it's not like we live in tight knit familial
No.
communities where we all help each other as a family. We all just split up, and then we're supposed to give a shit.
Mhm. It's
Never
not
mind.
my fault
Yeah.
that you guys chose to have me as a child, so you had somebody to take care of you when you got old.
It's definitely not
I
your
didn't
fault.
sign up for that shit when I was a kid.
But it's also like
I didn't sign
not
up for
my
any of
fault
this.
that like my grandparents live way over there, my cousins
Mhm.
live way over there, my other people live way over there. Like, why would I be friends with people I don't ever interact with?
Yeah, it's true.
Just because we have a similar uh, name, and our DNA is technically more similar than strangers, but not that much because everyone's DNA is very, very similar.
And this is when Joe revealed to the audience
Oh,
about his kissing cousins.
oh, wow. No,
The
no.
DNA
I
was
actually have shit tons
similar,
of
but
cousins.
not
I
that
do have
similar.
tons of cousins, and if I had more interactions, the odds would go up that I'd end up kissing one of them. But as it is, I'm only friends with one side of
Oh,
the
okay.
family's cousins, and I like them. They're cool. Um, my cousins on my mom's side, but my brother or my brother, my dad had 13 brothers and sisters.
The fuck.
They were
So there's like
Catholic.
fucking way too many people on the planet. Jesus fucking Catholic Christ.
Yeah, they still take up a pretty small proportion
That's,
of the total
that's
people.
just too many
Um,
people.
and so they had a lot of kids.
That's why
So I have
they
like 50 cousins on that side that I don't know at all.
so the Catholics have always had that no birth control rule because they're just like,
Yeah.
fuck, we're too few in number. Like, how are we gonna grow
Yeah.
numbers?
Yeah,
Birth
for sure.
control is the devil's work.
Well, up until like the 1950s, the birth rate was probably pretty shitty or whatever, 40s.
Well, there's a big
Whenever
baby
the,
boom after World War II, you know. Everybody,
yeah.
all those who survived came back horny as fuck because they had a lot of near-death experiences, and so that primal desire to spread their seed all about the land. And now here we are. Inflation on the rise, the ozone layer depleting by the day, the
Is it?
oceans are
I thought
rising.
I've heard the ozone layer was coming back.
It actually, I remember reading something about how it actually had recovered a lot during the early days of the pandemic because nobody was really going out and about. Like it was way reduced. So like the carbon emissions from vehicles and stuff was way down. And they were like, oh, it's actually like repairing itself right now
Weird.
because there's fucking nothing going on.
But that's not good for the news. They need negative stories.
No, it's too positive. Yeah, I try to not look at the news anymore. It's like just a great way to depress yourself. Like it's so easy to read the news and be like, cool, the world's ending like in 2 weeks probably. We're on the precipice every day.
What a terrible way to live. Who wants to? I mean, even if it was, what do you just?
Yeah, what are you gonna do to stop it? What are you single-handedly gonna do?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are
Yep,
you
that's
gonna
true.
do?
Fucking fuck the world, man. It's fucked.
Yeah, it is.
Positive. I like it.
I don't know how we got down this road. What were we
I don't
talking
know.
about?
I
We
mean,
were talking about something
trans
not
people. Now
so.
we're talking about the end of the
We
world.
were talking
So
about
what
the
does that say about
closer
how insensitive we are?
with Dave Chapelle.
Chapel.
And but what I did watch that was fun and was Theo Vaughn. He had a new special, and I thought that was fun. It was super fun.
I
He's a
don't think
funny
I've
guy.
ever watched. I've never heard of. I've maybe heard of him or seen him, but I don't think I've ever watched.
He has a mullet
stand-up.
and he's very
Oh no.
southern and
Okay.
he is young and he's very silly and I really appreciate his humor. He's not pretentious. He's just telling jokes, being silly, having weird observations. He'll just say random shit like in the middle of a show that like is super funny but doesn't really relate to anything else. He tells stories, but he also just goes on fucking tangents and stuff. I thought his special was really fun. And I watched it like right after I watched the Dave Chappelle one. What I think Dave Chappelle is turning into is a Carlin, in that Carlin used to be really, really funny and very relatable. And then he went from that to being really, really funny, but completely obsessed with like power and politics and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Dave Chappelle's doing because he's getting older. And a lot of times that's what you end up focusing on is like, politics and the world. And you think you're wise now, so you can have all these opinions about how things are. And obviously Carlin was specific about like the government manipulating people. And Dave Chappelle's kind of more like about racial,
more from like the racial
issues.
slant. Yeah. Which makes
Racial
sense.
slant.
I mean,
you can't say slant and racial stuff in the same.
Oh, you can't?
Slant.
Sometimes the rules change or they evolve and I'm not aware because I'm a simpleton. But
slant because of Chinese people.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I get it. Okay.
Racial slant.
Okay.
You
Racial
got it.
slant.
I saw this guy
Oh
the other
god.
day. He really had a racial slant to his face. Um, yeah, it's
Who
really interesting.
is
I think Dave Chappelle. This is my prediction. I'm going to predict that Dave Chappelle is going to be the new Martin Luther King, and he is going to be a voice for the Black community as a elder leader who is decently central enough to be a kind of go-between worlds. He also doesn't he have like a white mom?
also, can we just talk about the fact that he fucking made a movie called Half Baked? I mean, like that, he just loses
This is a good
credit for me
movie.
in like a serious way because
He's
I'm like,
not
this is the
serious
guy who made Half Baked. Why are you all taking his word as like some kind of sociological gospel
because
for how the
because
world
people
works?
think that
But
influence is a kind of power, and it is, but it isn't the kind of power like he's not using it in any like organizational way. He's not trying to like he's talks about people getting along and people being peaceful and like he doesn't talk about like he's not a hate monger.
no,
And if
I
he
think
was,
it's
it
just
wouldn't be
people.
funny.
People are very sensitive to like certain language, and I feel like he's
He
refuses to
pushes it.
adopt that language or he pushes it,
Sure.
you know. And so I think that's really like the heart of the
Yeah, a
issue
lot
is
of people
that
do though. A lot of comedians can't. They're going to use terms and use the words that people don't like. That's like Carlin. Carlin had his whatever list of words you can't say on TV because at that time the um I think it was what the FCC or whatever um created this list of words you couldn't say on television, and it was like fuck, twat, shit, cunt, blah blah blah,
Mhm.
and other things. And in Carlin's special, he went over those words and he said them out loud, and everyone's like, "Oh, like they're not all using like it's profanity is one of the stupidest taboos in the world, and the fact that we're
Mhm.
using it, we're still worried about it in any way on television is stupid as fuck. It's like the fact that you can't use certain terms on YouTube or else you'll get a fucking weird rating on there. Like it's fucking weird.
Mhm.
I think it's fucking stupid cunt
You're
bitch
pushing the limit now.
cock twat.
Really, people just need to get in the habit of if you don't like something, then just don't give it any energy or pay attention to it. Like if you were watching the Dave Chappelle stand up and he's saying a bunch of things that are bothering you, then just turn it off and go fucking do something else. Uh, I
Yeah.
mean,
Why are you watching Dave
because
Chappelle if
when
you
you
don't know
create
what
like
the
a
fuck he's gonna
controversy, all you're
say?
doing is just giving it a bunch of energy in life. There's gonna be a whole bunch of people that go and watch the closer who maybe don't necessarily watch much of Dave Chappelle stuff because they're gonna be like, oh my God, this is like a big, huge deal. Like everybody's complaining about it. I
Yeah.
gotta
Isn't that
watch this
the
and see what it is.
Streisand effect or whatever, where
Yeah.
you protest and so it gives somebody more coverage? Like
Mhm.
no news is bad news, kind of a situation
Yeah,
for
exactly. It's like
publicity.
if you really want to kill something in this country, you ignore it because the country runs on fucking money and views. And so when you complain about it, you're just feeding into that. So
Yeah. If you want to kill a baby, just ignore it. A
exactly.
little piece of
It's
advice.
true. But I can understand people's like problem if he was like being a fear monger or a hate monger or calling out, you know, hey, if you see a trans person, you know, beat the shit out of him. But like you said, he's
Where's the
not doing
joke
any of
in
that.
that? Can you
Yeah,
make
there's not
that
a
into
joke.
a
Like,
joke?
yeah, I mean, unless you actually had a joke where that was in there, but it was actually like a clever joke. But
Yeah.
I think that's why I think you can joke about anything if the
Jokes have
joke's
to
good enough.
appeal to the audience.
Hmm.
If the audience is not a bunch of hate mongering evil fucks, then the joke isn't going to make sense if it's being hateful and evil. It
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. You can't have a joke is not successful if the audience doesn't relate to it in some way. So really the joke is a reflection of the audience, not of the comedian.
Hmm. Well, sometimes like racist jokes or whatever are funny to me because it's not so much that the joke's funny, it's that there you know that there's people out there who are so ignorant that they believe this to be a truth, and that's what makes it funny is
It's
because you're just
satire
like,
if it's
well,
that
these
way.
people
Yeah.
like people believe this and they're fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Um,
You mimic and impersonate and make fun of things by pointing them out and criticizing them.
mhm,
And you adopt that persona so people can see how stupid it is. Or so you can just point out that people are sensitive, and that's silly that they're sensitive about certain things.
mhm.
There's a lot there's a lot of psychology going on in comic D. Do you be got comedy? Sorry.
You'll get there.
I don't know what I'm doing. But
But
I love comedy and I love stand up, so I try to
yeah,
watch as
sure.
much as I can. You know who I really like is who is he? I gotta find out now. I
I
don't know
really
his name.
enjoy like Bill Burr and Anthony Jeselnik and
Sure.
Joe Rogan's stand-up's actually pretty good. Like I don't, he's
Yeah.
not I don't know. Joe Rogan's an interesting guy because like he's fascinating, but at the same time I'm kind of like he's sort of a douchebag at the same time. Like I don't
Well, he's a jock.
yeah, he's just sort of like a meathead, but then he says some
Mhm.
funny shit sometimes. So
I think Joe Rogan is one of the funniest people when it comes to stand up.
yeah, his stand-up
Um,
is funny, but
his stand-up's amazing. But his, he himself, he's Joe Rogan.
yeah,
You know, he's the way he is.
top out shirts and muscles.
Yeah, I like Tom Segura.
Yeah, I love Tom Segura as well. He's really good.
Who is it? Oh, he's super funny. I watched one of his videos
Not
recently.
funny enough for you to remember.
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time. I like how every few years there's just like comedians go online and do interviews about what like comedy is and what people should be, what's politically correct and shit. Like it's so boring. Like what a
Hmm.
boring thing to try to figure out in the world. You know what I have been watching a lot of for YouTube is like um stuff on like dating and dating apps and um
Like how to
stuff
make
like
the
that.
most out of them, or just like documentaries about dating apps
No, more like
and tips.
people talking about how it's like really fucking up relationship between men and women. And like the younger culture, how like people aren't getting married, people aren't getting having good relationships and having
Mhm.
they're kind of men and women are kind of missing each other in the game. They're kind of like they're promiscuous, but they're also worried about rape culture. And then there's like the 1% of really hot people have all these choices, and then the rest of the people are completely celibate. And then some people are like very angry with women, and they like use that as a like it's women's fault that they can't get.
Oh,
There's just a
incels,
whole
man.
real and
Yeah,
then simps and like online and porn and all this stuff. I just been watching some stuff on it.
yeah.
Um,
I would be terrified to be like try to date now. Like, I got very lucky. Like I just sort of got removed out of the whole situation, and won't hopefully
yeah,
have to jump into it.
it's like Squid Game. Like dating is like the Squid Game.
Oh, I bet.
Like it's STDs and fucking women who steal your fucking shit and key your car. Um, and then you might get lucky. I'm just kidding. The person I was talking about, the stand-up that you should check out is Mark Normand. He is very, very funny. Um,
Mark
Mark
Norman.
Normand. Mark Normand. He's very like silly, politically incorrect. Says all sorts of stuff.
Hmm.
I think he's very, very funny. But a young up and comer who's
Yeah.
been doing it for 20 years, whatever.
Oh, that's young in the comedy world where most of them have to spend at least 20 years before
Yeah.
they get any kind of
You,
prominence.
you know, there's a lot right now is a lot of female comics, just tons
Hmm.
and tons of female comics. I think it is the era of young, uh, up and coming female comics. I was on like Instagram and stuff, all those like stories and reels, and then
Hmm.
like ones pop up with just like tons of different young-ish, female comedians. And some of them are super duper funny and say things that I think relate to men and women, and some of them are talking about women's stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Not all audiences are for
Yeah, I think that's
your
like
type of
whenever
comedy.
I'm watching stand up, it's sometimes it's tough because there's just like like I feel like if a comedian like focuses too much on sort of one thing, I just get bored with it after a little while.
If it's not relatable, then it's not your cup
Yeah.
of tea.
Well, at the same time, I'm just like, oh, you've kind of already done some jokes about this. Like,
Um,
what else do you have? But some
and
people love that,
yeah,
like Dave Chappelle, like sometimes his whole thing is just all racially based. And so it's
yeah,
like funny for a while for me, but then I'm like, okay, but what, like, there's other things like you could joke about, I feel like. So it just gets kind of tired.
yeah. But he knows his audience, and
Hmm.
he's trying to you know catered to a particular, and he probably thinks about that stuff a lot. So he's known for that type of commentary, so he probably feels obligated to talk about it
Yeah. Well, it's kind of
as
like
a
with
representative of
like
Black people.
Doug Benson, how a lot of his comedy is based around weed, and I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I don't smoke weed, so it's just like a
yeah,
lot of
not
this
as
just
funny.
kind of goes right over my head. I don't really have any way to relate to it. So
Yeah, it's like Joey Diaz. Like he says shit and it's pretty funny, but some of it's just like him saying it in a funny way and in a New York accent in a way that's like very vulgar. And it's like, okay, it's just not my fucking
Mhm.
thing. Like I get that he's funny, but it's not my kind of humor. But there's so much out there. There's so much
Mhm.
to listen to. So many good stuffs to imbibe. Something for everybody.
Or we could all just complain about Dave Chappelle or Sheppel.
Yeah,
Well,
Dave Chappelle. If I'm going to complain, it's going to be about his previous fucking stand-up, which was not comedy. It was just a lecture. I think.
that's kind of how Carlin, some of Carlin's stand up would
Yeah,
get for me. Is it was
sure.
like this is more like you just lecturing and making observations, and sort of going on rants
Ranting.
about,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's like you're like listening to it and you're like, that's true, that's true. I see where he's coming from. But at the same time, you're also like, well, I'm not really like laughing. Where are
yeah.
the jokes? This isn't really funny. This is just you
Where the
kind of
that's a good
complaining.
sign to put up like at a thing. Where are the
Where are the
jokes? Like
jokes?
seriously, like I get that at a certain point they have so much prestige that they can do whatever they want and they
Mhm.
can use that platform however they want and they're going to get views and they're going to have people pay for that show. And they probably tested that material out in some capacity on other places. So they get to do it. But a lot of young comics can't go up and just rant about shit. Um, and get anywhere. It takes
Mhm.
a lot of years to like get enough um,
Prestige.
prestige to do whatever you want and do what you really want, which is just lecture the fucking world, like a curmudgeony old fucking man.
Mhm.
But you have plenty of comics like Jerry Seinfeld who just did jokes.
Yeah.
Like his last special was jokes. You see Adam Sandler's last special where he did a bunch of songs. It
Mm-mm.
was hilarious, jokes the whole time. Not Adam going around talking about his fucking movies or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. I was very impressed with Adam Sandler's stand-up special or his sit-down special.
I bet you that's like really cool for a lot of them who started off in stand up and then they
Go
kind
back.
of got popular. So they went to like movies or something. And then they returned to stand up like decades later. But that would be
Yeah,
like a fun thing to come back to
a
and
lot
like
of them do that.
explore.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think there is. I think there's a new episode, a new season of Big Mouth coming out too. That's gonna be good
Well, probably. I'm
with
sure.
Nick Kroll. I like him.
He's pretty funny. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
He's okay. I'm any games you're playing?
Um,
Video games?
I'm still like kind of slowly working through Far Cry 6.
Me too, super slowly.
Yeah, I honestly will like maybe play it an hour at a time, and then I'm like, well, I'm kind of bored. I'm gonna move on. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
one of
not
those games that
engaging.
there's nothing wrong with it. Like you're playing
Yeah,
and you're like, it looks nice, it plays well, but I've just sort of done this a
yeah.
lot before.
Well, and you start off with everything you need to kind of just like
Yeah,
take
that's what I
out
don't like about it is
bases.
there's no sense of progression to it. Like you open a chest and you're like, maybe this will have a piece of equipment
Oh,
that I
I just
like more than
ignore
what I
almost
already
all of
have.
them. I almost ignore everything. And then if you want to build a load for a specific issue, then you do it. But
Yeah.
the only thing I need to help my game is like a rocket launcher because I just tried to play a level like 16 times in a row, and it was just me in a truck, and there's just vehicles chasing the truck, and you have to kill the vehicles. But I have no weapons that are strong enough to take
Oh, I've
out the
had that
people in the
happen
vehicles.
where you're like just sort of trying to throw grenades at it or just shoot them a lot and hoping that they blow up at some point.
What's crazy is that I don't like the um soft target
Oh yeah,
other
it's
target
annoying.
because for one, like the it doesn't really make sense that I'm shooting this dude with bullets and it's not hurting them because it's the wrong type of bullet.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, armor piercing would just be more powerful than a regular one, but the regular one would do it eventually, and it does technically, but it's just weirdly like I'm like looking at this Jeep point blank range. I'm shooting at it with a machine gun. I bullets are impacting on the bad guy and they're fine. And I'm like, why is that person not dead? I shot them a ton with bullets out of a
Well, it's because they
machine
didn't have a
gun at
helmet
point blank.
on. They're just soft, and you're using your hard
Exactly.
shell ammo,
Or
and
it's
you're
the
like,
other way
well,
around.
it's
It's like
fucking bullets, bro.
it doesn't make any sense. That whole system is wrong. It's inaccurate,
It's just
and
like
it doesn't
a
help.
it's just like an attempt at trying to create a strategy where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we want you to sneak up,
Switch
analyze the enemies in your
stuff.
camera, and be like, okay, those guys are soft targets, those are hard,
Yeah.
and then like alternating your
But when there's a bunch
weapons
of
and
there's a
ammo and
crowd, or you're in this massive
Mhm.
field and there's tons of dudes who are shooting you through the field and you can't see them, so you're just getting shot. You're hitting them with your bullets and it doesn't matter. It's like,
yeah,
what's going on here? I'm actually kind of upset with that particular aspect. I like the headshots. I like that I can, sneak around. But when it comes to the regular melee kind of, run and gun stuff, it seems very complicated.
yeah. I just I probably won't finish it.
Yeah.
I feel myself quickly approaching sort of the wall with her. I'm like, okay, I can put this down and probably not play it anymore. Maybe if I get in the mood to play some more Far Cry in the future, I might load it back up again. But yeah, I'm not really enjoying it too much. I started playing a little bit more Returnal. That's a game that I like constantly bounce back to after taking a break from it for a few months, especially because they continuously keep kind of like throwing updates at it. So it's interesting to go in and see what's a little different. But I'm thinking about picking up that Guardians of the Galaxy game that just came out a few days ago, because I've heard it's very good. It's kind of like Mass Effect, but Guardians of the Galaxy characters, like with their the paint, Mass Effect with the Guardians of the Galaxy paint job over it, if you will.
The hand job all over it.
Yeah, or hand job.
I'm
There's
thinking
like
about
nothing
playing that
really
game.
exciting coming out like for the rest of the year. It's kind of like a weak holiday season because I don't care about Call of Duty or the new Battlefield all that much either. So I'm just kind of that's like the
Yeah,
last two big things coming out.
it's
Like
gotten
Call of
kind of
Duty comes
like
out in like 4 days, I think.
is the gaming community so fucking predictable and monolithic that it's just Far Cry and Battlefield that have been out for 20 years?
Yeah. Well, it is for like the big blockbusters. If you want like interesting, like unique experiences, you have to look towards like the smaller budget, like independent games, because they're usually the ones experimenting with different IP and ideas. But I think these big budget games, it's like they can't afford to take the risk. So they got to do the tried and true
Yeah.
kind
I mean,
of,
there's Halo. Halo's coming out. That's pretty big.
yeah. I'm not a big Halo fan though. Like I'll probably play through the campaign because I have for all the other ones, but I'm not somebody
Yeah.
who gets like hooked on the multiplayer and plays it.
I'm sad that I don't like Halo anymore. I used to be so into it, and I just like, I don't know. Who gives a fuck?
I think a lot of people have felt that way after Bungie moved on to
So
do Destiny after
boring.
Halo Reach. They just kind of
Yeah,
like the other studio
that
343
had
picked it
something to do
up,
with
but
it.
it just hasn't really returned to the same prominence as it was with Halo 3 and Reach. That was like the peak of Halo, and then
Yeah,
but
those
I
are
heard nothing
that
but
was
good things
good.
about the new one.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
Halo
it's
Infinite,
supposed to go
so.
back to kind of like a similar
Mhm.
to the first game, which is probably really fun, but um I guess I'm a
Why?
little disillusioned with video games in general. I think Elden Ring's the only thing I'm like, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna get into it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm probably just not playing much.
Yeah, I haven't been playing that much either because I've been more focused on writing this novel. I'm already like almost done writing the first part of it. I'm like 50 pages deep into it. So it's
50
coming along
pages?
quite nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned that you had already gotten started and writing.
Like over the last couple of weeks. I didn't write as much over the weekend as I had originally hoped, mostly because we did that birthday party and then Halloween. And so there was just some other things going on this weekend that kind of pulled me away from it. But
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've been doing during
family.
the week is it's like I get home from work, I make dinner, and then I work on some writing and then take the dog out for a walk and go to bed and get up and do it all over again. But
Yeah, I like routine, but then every once in a while you have a day of weirdness.
yeah, usually my weekends I kind of like I have a little bit of a routine, but I try to just do whatever feels good.
Yeah, right. I feel like living life like you're both going to die and you're going to live is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Like every once in a while you just go, oh, I'm gonna die. I should probably just do a bunch of drugs and fuck
Mm-hmm.
and eat whatever I want or whatever your
Mm-hmm.
vices are. And by fuck I mean masturbate, and by do a bunch of drugs I mean like maybe smoke a joint every once in a while.
You live an exciting life.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Drink a beer.
Whoa, risque.
Risk gay, which is the gay version of risk.
Oh, okay.
where you take things over through sheer
Happiness.
campiness,
Oh.
campiness,
Okay.
just by being theatrical.
I see.
Um, and then you should also live life like you're going to live forever. So you should plan ahead. You should treat people well, and you should have a 401k.
It's true. My goal with my 401k is just to one day only have to work part-time instead of full-time, like when I'm old.
Yeah, like a lot of old people.
Like if I could just work 20 hours a week and then use my
And not give
401k
a
to
fuck.
supplement, it'd
And
be
not
great.
give a fuck.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
don't
then
want
you,
to be a
you also have
manager or
Social
anything.
Security if it exists. Everyone talks shit about it, but I don't know. I know a lot of old people that are using it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it still exists, I'll get a little tiny check for being old, and then I'll get a little check for being
401k.
retired, retarded.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's kind of like being old. Hey, we're
But
both
I mean,
scratching
there
our
is
heads at
some
the same
mental
time.
degradation involved with aging. So that's why you gotta read and write and stuff. You gotta keep your brain moving.
Yeah, I think our generation of old people are gonna have a better time of it because we have
Mm-hmm.
way more things to stimulate us, way more things to keep our brain going, new things to think about and talk about, and video games.
Mm-hmm.
And old people should just play video games.
It's gonna be interesting when we are all old and you just have like a bunch of like 60, 70-year olds just fucking tearing it up on the PlayStation 22 or whatever the fuck's out by then.
And there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to keep playing the new
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like it's
Well,
not
they
like
just make them more accessible as time's gone on. I mean, games have
yeah,
gotten easier to play, and then their accessibility options just keep expanding. Like,
yeah. Far Cry has that like in spades. It has just like
yes,
the whole beginning of the game is just like a thing about like what kind of help do you need to enjoy
yeah,
this
it's
game, which
really cool.
I like it. It's the kind of thing that an older person would be like, I don't like this is in the way. But if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, like it's a reaction to a variety of gamers, and they're trying to make it so that more people can play their fucking games. Makes way more
Well, and you
sense.
never know, like, when something might happen in your life that
Exactly.
disables you in some way,
Hmm.
and these people are actively working on ways to be able to, like, I would be really bummed out if something happened to me and then something I couldn't play games anymore
Yeah.
because of whatever injuries happen. But maybe, through all these accessibility options, I still might be able to. I
Yeah.
mean, well, maybe you can't play it obviously at the same capacity, but it's fucking better than nothing. So,
Yeah. It gives you an option.
it's exciting, and it's great for kids and other people who are disabled who can't do a lot of like other physical things in their
Yeah.
life. They can still have some new experiences, at least through games. um
Yeah, and they want to
yeah,
be part of the culture.
and that too,
Young
yeah, it's
people are in they don't want to be separate from their
mhm.
friends and people that they go to school with. And I think that's one of the progressive things that people don't realize. They do concentrate on words like retarded, but they don't necessarily look at the actual improvements in the lives of disabled people and the accessibility of general, like people in general. Like
Mhm.
things are generally easy to get around and easy to go places and easy for people to be accommodated. And there's lots of resources for people to have people help them, and job coaches and laws that help,
Mhm.
all that stuff. I don't know who's advocating for that sect of people, but they don't seem to be doing a lot of like public complaining, but they seem to be getting along in the world,
Why
hopefully.
would you complain about making something more accessible for more people to enjoy? It's fucking weird. Like, it reminds me when people like throw a fit when people talk about how they wish that they would make like an accessibility mode in like the one of the Souls games, because people are like, well, the whole idea behind the games is supposed to be grueling and hard, and it's like, well, but it's still like gatekeeping it from other people. Some people want to still experience the game and the atmosphere and the cool boss fights, but
Oh,
maybe
that's
need help
tough.
doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know how you would do that for someone who's having a tough time cognitively. I could see
yeah,
doing it
well,
so that you can get the controller to work for more people,
mhm,
so you can use your nose or something. Um, but the
yeah,
game is like, I think you could make it easy. You could do an easy mode in Dark Souls, and a person just would choose not to do that if they
yeah. That's what
were
I mean. Like when
a
people
regular
throw a fit
player.
about
Like
it.
I wouldn't choose to do it. I think
Hmm.
part of the game is also part of the lore of the game is the game. Like the game is kind of a meta game in that it puts you into a world that isn't a game. Like it isn't, like, to the characters in the world, it's not a game. It's like this
Yeah,
fucking fully fleshed out, very fucking elaborate world, and it's D&D, and it's not, it's not a game that's like okay with you just being like, oh, where's my HUD and my map and my fucking this and that.
Hmm.
It's like if you were thrust into this world as this character, you don't have choices about what you're going to interact with. The environment is the environment, and it's your job to figure it out. But I do agree that um, there are people who would be able to enjoy those games if they change the difficulty
Yeah.
and the way you interact with. I think they could do that already, which switching up controls, schemes, and
Yeah.
things. And maybe I mean, you don't really need the story in those games anyway, so you don't really need any
But
of
part
that
of
stuff.
like with the Souls games, what I enjoy is just traveling the environments and learning them and seeing the cool monster designs and figuring out how to beat things.
Yeah,
And
it would be
so,
very interesting to do
and
that.
then there's some people like like Vanessa, who is like, she would probably enjoy the game and like the world, but she's like, I don't want to deal with that difficulty. That's not fun for me. It's just frustrating. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't have any fun. So it's like, why not add some kind of easy mode where it's like just maybe the
yeah,
enemies do a lot less damage or you do more damage. So it's like, and then you would pull more people in, and people who want to complain about it, it's like, well, then don't use the fucking easy mode. It's not required. It's just an option for people. It's always
yeah,
weird when people want to just like take options away from people. It's like nobody's forcing you to do this. It's just an option that other
yeah,
people would probably maybe like to use so they can enjoy
yeah.
something more.
I think ultimately it's on the game developer, and they
Hmm.
shouldn't be ridiculed or shamed or um, uh, unnecessarily punished for the way that they want to make their game.
No, I agree. It's like
But
all
they
an
should
artistic
consider
integrity.
those kind of things.
Hmm.
They can consider that, and if they don't do that, then don't play their game. And not everything is supposed to be accessible to everybody, just
Yeah.
like not all comedy is for everybody. Not all if you're deaf, you have a limited source of things that you can use as entertainment and media. Not everyone is going to accommodate that, but more and more and more and more people do, and more people do things for blind people,
Hmm.
and more things are being done to help people who have other disabilities. And I think that there's obviously some benefit in doing that. You can more people can enjoy your content, but also there's a whole industry and economy around accessibility and such, and uh, that's good. People should be able to get value helping people as well as getting helped.
Hmm.
Um, I don't I don't know a ton about it, really.
I've just been reading more about it, like in the video game
Yeah,
space. There's a YouTuber called the Blind Gamer, and his whole YouTube channel is him doing reviews on games based off their accessibility options. And like he kind of helps people figure out based off their own limitations, like
it's
whether they
great.
could play something or not. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's just really fascinating to watch because it's things that I've never considered because I'm luckily not disabled in any major way where I need accessibility
I
options to
mean,
be able to enhance my enjoyment of something.
you
Yeah.
are bald.
But so it's just cool to listen to somebody who's like, he's like illegally blind and
Illegally blind?
no, legally. It's
He's
he's
I mean,
so blind it's
he's
fucking
so blind it's
illegal.
illegal.
It's
It's
a
when he
crime. They arrest that
yeah.
motherfucker.
He's so blind he sees backwards.
As you can see backwards in time, you can
Hmm.
see the past.
He's just constantly shocked at what just happened. I can't believe I'm missing all this shit. Oh man. Anyway,
what's your
yeah,
recommendation this
we
week?
got to get this
And then we can
showboat on the
wrap it up. I gotta go take the
bush.
dog for a walk.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. Um, my recommendation is Dune, but I also want to recommend Theo Vaughn's special.
Oh, okay.
The movie Dune, obviously people know about it, but Theo Vaughn on Netflix. Um,
Theobald.
I thought it was good. It's funny. It's irrelevant. What is it called?
Irreverent.
Irreverent.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a reverend. Um, and I haven't seen a comedy that was like laugh out loud, like silly in a while.
Mm-hmm. I haven't either, come to think of it. A lot of times it's more like in your head, you're like, oh, that's funny. But you're
Hmm.
not like actually laughing out
Yeah.
loud.
This one, I was like, I think I was doing some exercises, and there were a couple times where I had to stop and just like chuckle, and instead of falling on my face while I'm trying to
Hmm.
do something.
Of course. Don't hurt yourself.
I don't.
Well, then my recommendation, as earlier, was Antlers. So if you're in the mood for a cool horror movie with some interesting themes and some really brutal scenes, it's definitely worth watching. But it's only in theater, so if you're waiting for video on demand or streaming, it might be a couple months or something before it hits. But if you want to brave a movie theater,
Yeah, I
these are
don't know why that
pandemic
would be
times.
so scary for people. I mean,
I'm
most
sure
people
there's
are
some
going
people who
to
are
like the
just,
grocery store and shit. It's not
yeah.
scarier than that. Try going to the grocery store in Northeast Portland. It's fucking scary just dealing with goddamn bums and
Dude, I go to the
crackheads.
grocery store over in Junction City. It's we have a Safeway over there, and I go like every Saturday morning at like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And fucking nobody's in there. And I just get in there and get my groceries and get out. It's that's my
Yeah,
strategy.
I had right around close yesterday when I was working. Right behind me, I have my works back there.
Behind the, yeah,
Um, and she just like comes in the exit like where people
that's always a
leave.
good
She
sign.
comes in always good. We're always
Mm-hmm.
very skeptical of these people. She is not wearing a mask. She's probably
Mm-hmm.
30s. She's talking to herself. She has a bottle of orange Fanta in her hands that she brought
You're
in,
just listing red flags, man, just left and right
the
here.
fucking Fanta. And then she goes up to the counter and like in front of people. Like there are people in line. She doesn't give a shit.
Oh,
She just
God.
walks up in front and she's just talking about, and I heard her say something about being bipolar and something about like blah 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 blah. And I just walk right up to her and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you have are you supposed to be here? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to buy something? Do you want cigarettes?" Because she brought out like an empty pack of cigarettes. So I think she wanted to buy some cigarettes, but she only had $5. Cigarettes are like $10. And then I was like,
Fuck.
"You need to put on a mask." She proceeds to take out 10 fucking masks from her purse and just puts them all on the fucking counter and doesn't put one on. And I'm like, "You need to put that on. Like, you need to put, like, I get you're tripping. Like, I
Yeah.
know I'm not trying to give you, like, I'm not trying to yell at you. You're not in your right mind. I know what that looks like. And I'm not trying to escalate, but I have to be in control or else all of my customers are going to start freaking out. They're going to yell at you and tell you to get the fuck out of here and they're going to be scared. So
Mhm.
I need to step in and take some uh, ownership of the fact that this person's in the store. So then I just go, "Hey, do you want to buy some cigarettes? That's $10. You don't have $10. It doesn't look like you're buying anything. You need to go." And so eventually she just made her way out without any problems. And she like points at her drink and she's like, I'm gonna be good. I got this drink. I'm gonna be good. And I was like, "You drink that. You get that drink in your belly. You get it. You do it outside." And
Yeah.
then she ended up leaving. And it was like, that kind of person is so unbalanced and volatile
Mhm.
that there's very little that you can really do about it. There's
No, you
you
just gotta
you
get them
don't
to
want to
move
touch
along.
them, you don't want them to touch you, you don't want them to spit on you or grab you or kick you or punch you or stab you. And you just don't know what's going to happen, but
So
they
you just
can't
encourage
do
them to
whatever they
drink their
want.
Fanta. Yeah.
Yeah, I get out. Like I always try to be like really paying attention to what they're actually doing and saying so that I
Hmm.
can say it back to them. Be like, "Hey, I can tell you're doing this. I don't understand and you don't get what's going on. So we need to be done here."
Yeah, I have to do
Like
that a
almost
lot
like
at
a
work too.
child, like they're like a child. Like you're trying to be sensitive to their state of mind, not you're not trying to like because sometimes I deal with people who are just assholes and I
Hmm.
don't need to be sensitive and I can just say, "Hey, get the fuck out. You're dumb. I don't like you. You're an adult. We can just be done." But when they're having a manic episode, it's
Yeah.
different.
So the manic episodes are tricky because you
Yeah.
like know you're like
They're
this
not all
person is
there.
they're not like in full control of what they're
Nah.
doing right now. So they don't even know what they're doing.
Yep.
I deal with that on a pretty regular basis. We have a
Yeah.
lot of clients that come in pretty
Yeah.
rough states, and
All
so a lot of it's just
frantic.
de-escalating and like trying to be careful to not trigger them in some way. Um, yeah, it's all about studying their fucking body language and just
Yeah.
listening intently
Like,
to what they're saying.
do
So
they
that you
seem angry or do they
Mhm.
just seem energetic and confused and they're
Yeah,
just
manic
talking?
episodes come in all flavors, man. That because you have those
Yeah,
people
all
who are like
sorts.
scary, and then other people who just come in and they're like have way
Just
too
like,
much energy and are like coming in strong, and you're like, whoa, hey,
yeah,
what are we doing here?
yeah. And they're half there. A lot of
Mhm.
times they'll look at you for a second, then they'll go back to being crazy. But it's It's very tricky,
Mm.
and it's very sad. It's if
Yeah.
I really am happy that I don't have to go through those very, very you know, vulnerable positions. When you're like that, you're super vulnerable. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to remember. It's like being blacked out drunk, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But even worse, really. Well, I don't know. There's not much worse than being blackout drunk. You People can do whatever they want to you.
Yeah. Well, and
Anyway,
you have no recollection of what you're doing.
when you're
So,
still active, when you're like
mm-hmm.
that, so it's like a kind of waking um subconsciousness. You're subconscious, but you're like you're being conscious. Anyway, more positive stuff to end the
Just
show.
daily lives, man. It's what we all deal with out there in them streets.
Out there in them streety streets, hard knocks. It's a
It's
hard
fucking
knock
hard out there.
life.
Life is hard. Nobody really like
Yeah.
really instills that in you as a kid. I feel like it's like life is fucking hard. You have a
Life,
lot of shit you got to do that you're
yeah,
responsible for, and if you don't do it, you end up fucking homeless and on drugs in
yeah.
the street.
It's a constant battle against like destruction, but it's so much better than it could be.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like for most of us, for the vast majority of
Mm-hmm.
American fucking people, it's so much better than it was, but it's still trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there's still psychos out there, and there's still fucking um scary people and aggressive people and all sorts of stuff. So watch your back, check your
Yeah, be
neck.
safe out there. Be smart, you know.
Yeah.
Use the old noodle. Make your
Yeah.
decisions
Be
wisely.
observant, pay attention.
Also be respectful and kind to each other.
Yeah. And then don't be respectful and kind if they don't deserve it.
It's true, yeah. If somebody's a dick to you, then fuck them.
Yeah, or ignore them because they might beat your ass.
That's really my go-to is I just ignore people. If they're being mean or hostile, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go the other way now.
Very tricky.
You
There
clearly
is
need
a
some space.
there's a time like when I was talking about those guys who were speeding through the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt a non-negotiable obligation to protect the people in that parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very much ready to do something very much not cool. And I didn't feel like I had a choice because
Yeah.
I knew that I couldn't call the cops because they weren't there. But I knew that if they came back, the cops wouldn't be there in time if they
No,
actually were
yeah.
driving through the parking lot doing something crazy. I don't know what they were thinking, but if they ram into a car, if they get really close to hitting people, where people are walking around that parking lot. It's not a big parking lot. They're walking around constantly. They're old people too. And people in walkers. And if these people ended up hitting somebody, I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I could just allow and watch somebody hurt somebody else on my, when I'm responsible for protecting
Mm.
the property. At least not really, but it's still people. Like, regardless of my job's responsibilities, I don't feel like you should just sit back and watch people hurt people. It's wrong. They should be stopped, even if it sucks,
Yeah.
for you, if you can, and if it makes sense. It's rarely going to be rational.
Well, and imagine how you'd feel too if you had the power to stop the situation but you chose not to for one reason or another, and then they actually did plow through like a family in the parking lot and fucking killed, all
I
three of
don't.
them.
Yeah, I'd rather lose my job and potentially kill them or something like that than have them do that. But it's just so tricky because you don't know what they're going to do, and you don't know what the outcomes are going to be like until they exist. One of the things I was trying to wrap my head around, and we'll talk about it some other time because we don't have time, but is the completely different and unrelatable world of law enforcement and military people. I think that I was watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it was weirdly, there was some realistic thing that happened in the show, and I realized that they don't live in the same world as everyone else. They're just totally different mindsets of people who wake up and are given authority to go stop bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just a different world. I think it's a different thing. It's a different culture. It's a different set of people. They're not the
explored that
same.
in like some other did you ever watch that movie Copland with Sylvester Stallone and Harvey Keitel?
Yeah, I saw that.
Kind of play with that idea where it's like they are their own subculture in
Yeah.
our society.
They have different ways of thinking, and they they get they are afforded a different level of authority, and it's just different. They're just not, they're doing something that is so fucking scary that very many, most people would never ever imagine doing what they do. And like, people don't go around just like looking for bad guys and protecting people. That's not common. That's not what most people wake up and want to do with their day. They don't want to go get into dangerous situations.
No, not at all.
And as much as cops and military people make so many mistakes with their authority and their actions, they're charged with doing something that is very, very primal and difficult and somewhat civilized. You know,
You try to be
it's
civilized
the
about
only
it, but
way civilization works and economies work is because you don't fear going to work and you don't fear engaging in economic trade. And economic trade is peace, and to create peace you have to have protection of some sort from bad guys. It's very interesting.
yeah, it's something I cannot relate to.
Complicated. Yeah.
I actively try to avoid any dangerous situation when I wake up instead of finding
Yeah.
it and seeking it out. So, yeah.
You just don't expect it, and you go about, and we live in such a world that's generally safe that you don't have to be your own police officer. And then something happens and you're like, oh shit, the cops are not here and I need
Mhm.
them right now. I need a
Yeah.
bodyguard. Where's my bodyguard? Oh, there's nobody around. I'm an adult. You're your own bodyguard. It's scary. It can be, at least. And you don't know what you're going to do.
Well, then you have to try to think of the consequences of what you could do. You know,
And you
like
might
in
go
your
to jail
situation at work,
protecting
is it's
yourself.
like you want to protect people, but it could cost you your job or
Yeah.
put you in jail. And all you're
Or
trying to do is
yeah.
help.
And you hope that you make the decision in a way that is, at least other people won't be like, you're a fucking idiot.
That's it.
You know, you don't want to be the guy who accidentally beats the shit out of a guy and it's the wrong person.
Mhm.
It's really not cool. But sometimes you don't have a lot of information. Anyway, some other time, I suppose.
Some other time. Some
We'll
other
call it
day.
a night. It was good chatting.
Yeah, of course. It always is.
It always is around these parts. So check us out. Go to joesnotesblog.com. Channy's book's going to come out soon enough. And you can
Sometime.
read
Yeah,
it.
who knows?
And in the meantime, have a good week.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, where is it?